Hi, this is Dave once again at TitleSearch.com. So what role do property taxes play in titles, in property titles, and title searching? First of all, consider when you look at a title search what the property taxes are and where they are on that title search abstract. A property may have taxes due, it may have taxes paid, it may have a tax lien on it. So where do these numbers come from? First of all, property taxes are accrued on a property as a function of law. Each county, city, state has a series of layers of taxation on that property that cause a liability for the owner or for the property. It's based on a mill rate, which is the percentage, basically the tax percentage charged, and the assessed value. So if you take the mill rate times the assessed value, that's how much your tax is going to be. So that amount accrues on an annual basis. It's sometimes paid once a year. Some counties or cities pay it quarterly or semi-annually. And in that case, those payments are recorded with the tax assessor or tax collector, depending upon the venue. The tax collector will have a person on that account as a taxpayer. Normally it's referred to as the assessee or the taxpayer. That normally can't be looked at as the legal owner. In some cases it might be the same as the legal owner. In many cases the owner pays for the taxes. However, on a lot of commercial properties the taxes are paid by a tenant or maybe a management company. On rental properties sometimes there'll be an agent that handles all the affairs for the owner, taxes and whatnot, and insurance. So you can't rely on the tax assessor's records to show ownership. It's a place to start to see if maybe that's the owner, and then once you get into the actual legal land records, look further. But the assessee is not the owner. The address on the tax assessor's records is a very helpful clue, because there may be a mailing address different from the property address in the tax assessor's records. That means that the tax bills are sent elsewhere. That might indicate a different owner, or it might indicate that the owner doesn't live in the property as a primary residence, maybe a rental or a second home. The tax assessor's records are not the official title records. Matter of fact, they're not title records at all. There may be a reference to the deed. Sometimes a tax assessor will reference the last deed on a property just to give a reference for people looking at the tax records. However, the updated interval may not be current. Some tax assessors only update their records and their accounts once a year, twice a year. So if a property is transferred, the old owner may still show in those tax assessor's records for up to 6, 8, 9, 10 months, depending upon the interval. There are also factors which go into the tax amounts based on effects of law. Some property taxes are capped in certain states based on homestead exemptions. In California there's different propositions. Proposition 13 was the one that capped the increase in property rates, so that way somebody doesn't have a house and their taxes jump 2 or 3 or 4 times the next year and they can't afford to live there anymore. The rate of increase is capped as long as they own it. Now when they sell it, the next owner, they have their taxes established at the current market value. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're looking at a property to see what the taxes are, when you buy it, the taxes may be nowhere near what they currently are if the value has jumped up dramatically during the time that that person has owned it. Homestead is one of the processes used in some states to cap the taxes, and in some states the homestead exemption also allows for asset protection. If a home is homesteaded by the owner, basically saying this is my primary residence, I live in this state, the statutes of that state, Florida is a great example, protect that owner from losing that house from foreclosure of second and third liens. So if you put a lien on somebody on their house and they live, let's say, in a homestead state like Florida, you can't foreclose that lien and take away their primary residence. A first mortgage in most cases can do that, but subsequent liens cannot do that. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people with potential debts or judgments against them live in homestead states. It's one of the reasons that O.J. Simpson moved to Florida, to protect his assets from creditors who might be looking to take those away. And then separate from that, not to be confused, is a 1031 exchange. That's a federal tax exchange where you're allowed to take a profit from one property and exempt it from your income tax as long as you put that money back into a like-kind investment. You have a 10-family rental property, you sell it, you make a big profit on it. As long as you plow that money back into a similar like-kind property, you're allowed to roll that over and not pay the income tax due right then. But that's income tax, not property taxes. But it does affect the records on a property. So property taxes are important to look at. Make sure that if you're just looking at the title records, that you also look over at the property tax assessor's office to see if there's anything there. On the other hand, don't just look at assessor's records and expect that to give you any kind of title status about other liens, ownership, or whatnot. Property tax assessors and title records are two separate things, although they both need to be taken into account with each other.